All right, I think we're live. It's been a minute since I've done one of these. Let me just make sure that a countdown going. Awesome, cool. Hi there, welcome. My name's Elizabeth, for any of y'all who don't know me. Today we're talking about those roles that change and how, we feel off because we're not a wife or a mom or, whatever anymore. Life shifted, we're having a hard time shifting with it. So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to share one reason why this happens and a question you can ask yourself that's going to help you reconnect, okay? So, this isn't just a, we're not looking for quick fixes necessarily. We want things that are going to stick. And so that's why I'm going to give you something to think about here at the end that's going to help you make that connection. So here's the deal, right? You followed the plan. You did the things you were supposed to do. You stayed home with the kids. You put the career on hold. You supported everybody else. Whatever that looks like, right? I know us moms are so good at putting ourselves on the back burner and putting our things off because it always feels like there's something else more important, especially when you have a spouse, a partner, when you have kiddos at home, everything else comes up, right? So what ends up happening is that your role as wife or mom or caregiver or chauffeur, it starts to feel like those are who you are, right? And then life shifts, the kids go away to college, maybe the marriage ends, maybe you find a new partner and you're trying to figure out where you fit in, how you fit in with this person. But that structure that you used to have there around those roles, it doesn't exist anymore, right? So feeling lost right now doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It just means that we are building something new, right? I like this idea of building because, look, you're not lost, right? You know where you are. You are where you're at, sitting in a chair, looking around your office or your house or your car or whatever, right? So you're not lost. But what's happening is that one thing was built and now we're building something new. And that is what life is about. It's about building and creating. It's not about wandering and always trying to find where we fit in. Okay? You fit in where you are. And I'm going to talk to you about how you can help figure that part out, right? So let's get to it. As a therapist, I see this pattern all the time. Personally, I've experienced some pretty big transitions in my own life. I've gotten divorced. I've got a kid in college. I got a kid who moved away. I got another kid who moved away and then moved back and is living with me right now. I'm traveling full time at the moment and working remotely. I've gotten remarried. I've moved. All of the things have happened. I've got a 14-year age gap between who used to be my youngest and who is now my youngest. So, being like a mom to a little kid again, all of that stuff, right? I totally understand the what the hell am I doing feeling, okay? So I'm going to see if I can share my screen with you because I want to show you one of the pages in my workbook. Where is the screen share? I had this set up before I went live. Damn. You're now live. I know. Where's my screen share? Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay, I'm going to read to you what it says, okay? This is in the identity section. And it says, roles aren't the problem. So roles like parent, partner, friend, helper, they're meaningful and valuable. The issue is that we only know ourselves through them. So roles describe how you relate. Identity describes who you are. So let me show you what starts to happen with this little doodle I have behind me, okay? You probably can't read it because it looks like chicken scratch. But let me bring it a little closer. So we see here we have this big circle that says identity. And then off to the side we have wife, we have mom. These are roles. What starts to happen is that those roles, they sort of start to like move into identity. Or we move out of identity into the roles, right? And this is why this stuff gets so crossed. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but inside of identity, I wrote words that I feel like are my identity. So I wrote, what did I write? I wrote friendly, outgoing, adventurous, curious, student, I love to learn, creative, right? Here's the difference, okay? And I'm going to go back to the workbook for a minute. Identity is internal, okay? When you anchor your identity internally, it becomes shaped by your values, your preferences, your inner motivations, your natural tendencies, right? So this kind of identity, it doesn't disappear when your relationships change, when you stop being needed. It removes the need for external validation, right? So when I read this, when I think of my identity, how I identify, what happens, I hope the screen didn't go off when I clicked off. Geez. These are the things that made me good at being a wife and at being a mom. These are the things that I enjoyed about it, right? I brought curiosity to my kids. I brought adventure for my kids, right? We traveled, we went hiking. I was dragging them all kinds of places because I wanted to introduce that into their lives. So it was my identity that helped me be a good mom. You want to know something I wasn't good at? Cooking. I hate cooking. They eat. We had cereal. We had oatmeal. We had sandwiches. They lived. But that part of like that caregiver, like that, you know, that like really like nurturer, like that wasn't me so much. It's still not, if I'm being honest. I'll give them a hug, no problem. I tell them I love them all day long. But that softer side, right, that says like I want to do and take care of you, like that's not so much there for me in terms of my identity. And so I didn't put it in there. But just because I wasn't that piece, didn't make me a bad mom because of all the other things that I brought to it. So I want you to understand that identity is what you're bringing into the role that make you good at it, that make it enjoyable for you. And so if you can tease that out, right, what are those things that I brought? What are those things that I introduced? What are those things that made it fun and enjoyable? That's where identity lies. And that's going to be the question that you start to answer. And when you can tease that out and start operating more in, okay, what are the things about what, you know, being adventurous? What do I like to do? Let me tap back into that. Here's the deal, right? You weren't always a mom. You weren't always a wife. But some of these things, I've been these since I was 5 years old. They didn't go away. They've just evolved with me. So think back to maybe how you were before other people started entering your life and needing from you. Because I bet that part of you didn't go away. It's still there. It's just maybe looked different and how you interact with it differently over the years, but it didn't change, okay? So that is the question. What are those parts of myself that I brought to my relationships, right? So again, we're thinking, this is from the workbook, we're thinking values, preferences, inner motivations, natural tendencies. That is your identity. That is who you are, not the roles. You brought those things into the roles, and that's what made you good at the roles, and that's what made the roles enjoyable for you. But they aren't who you are. So if you can start to answer that question, then that will help you connect with your identity outside of the role changes. Okay? I hope this was helpful. If it wasn't, don't tell me. If you want to go deeper, if you want more of the workbook, it's $4.99. I'm going to throw the link underneath the video so you can check it out. That was one section of one page that I kind of dug into there. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. Yeah. I will see you back here when I see you, sooner rather than later. Have a happy rest of the day. Bye.